Hello, and welcome to Message in the Middle with Marianne. We all know that life is hard, right? It's messy, it's unpredictable, but it can be wonderful all at the same time. My hope is that we can take a deep dive into self-development topics and explore life's lessons through book clubs, conversations, and interviews. And together, we can uncover the lessons that others have already learned to help us navigate this crazy, wonderful ride called life. Hello and welcome to Message in the Middle with Marianne, and today with Dr. Brittany Clayborne. Dr. Clayborne is a mom, a heart transplant recipient, a cancer survivor, an entrepreneur, an author, and a speaker. Brittany, thank you so much for being with me today.
It is absolutely my pleasure, Marianne. Thank you so much for having me.
I'm so glad you're here, and I'm glad to share your story. I think when we first talked, I mentioned that the premise of my show is life is messy, life is hard. We go through a lot of ups and downs and trials and tribulations and twists and turns. And when I think about the story that you shared with me, I think you're a billboard for that. So I would love it if you could share some of the background that brought you to this work with the rest of my audience.
Absolutely. It is my pleasure. So in 2010, I was pregnant with a little boy that I was expecting, and the pregnancy was going perfectly well. Well, all of a sudden, I went to do one of those fun 3D ultrasounds, and my sonographer said, "Hey, I want you to go get your fluid checked. It's kind of low. And it's too early for it to be low. He still has almost 7 weeks." So I went to my OB and she said, "If I don't get the baby out of you in the next 24 hours, you are going to seize. And I can't save both of you." So we made the decision to induce labor. And although he was going to be early and small, we chose that. We felt like we had a great team of neonatal specialists that could help. So he was delivered at 2 pounds. And they told me so much would be wrong. They told me he wouldn't. That one of the biggest things was he will not be breathing. So we're going to take him out and we're going to rush him straight to the NICU. Well, let me tell you, he came out screaming. And specifically what he was saying is, "Where is my placenta? I have at least 6 more weeks. What is happening? I paid until the 25th of October. It is the 12th of September. What is happening? Call the landlord." So
He got evicted.
He got evicted early and he was not happy. And I think he carries a chip on his shoulder even now in life, that because he got evicted 6 weeks early. But that was amazing to me that he came out screaming and yelling. So I did get to hold him for a moment and I got to tell him his name and they brought him to the NICU. So I went home and I was feeling like I'd had a baby. And about 3 days later, I would go back and forth to the NICU to see him and feed him and stuff like that. But about 3 days later, when I went to lie down that night, I felt like someone was lying me down underwater. So I went back to the hospital and they said, within the past 72 hours, you've had a heart attack. And I was like, "I had a baby?" They're like, "Same thing." So no, they said that there is this condition called Peripartum Cardiomyopathy, and it's this unexplained weakening of the heart muscle, which happens either right before, it basically happens within 6 weeks before delivery or within 6 weeks after delivery, you go into heart failure. And sometimes that is a heart attack. Sometimes it's just a drop in the measurement of how much blood is being pumped through your body, which is called your ejection fractures. But they said the good news is you're young, you're overall healthy, and you should recover within a couple of months, at most a couple of years. Well, I went home on just some new meds. Micah came home from the NICU a few weeks later and everything was really good. And then about 2 years later, when I was supposed to be recovering, the heart started to get even weaker. So I had to have a pacemaker put in and a defibrillator. While I had that pacemaker and defibrillator, I died 5 times. All were different scenarios. There was a time I was just watching TV on the couch. There was another time I was actually driving in the rain. So there were all kinds of situations. It wasn't, I was doing something insane and it happened. One time specifically that was the most profound time, I think, is I was sitting in the living room watching Wheel of Fortune and with my mom, and Micah was on the floor playing Legos. And after you die a few times, you know what it feels like when it's coming. So I told my mom, I said, "Get Micah, I'm going to die." And before I could get the word out, I died and my defibrillator had charged up. And, I'm sitting in a rolling computer chair right now. Well, I was sitting in a chair very similar. And when you get shocked it pushed me from where I am to the wall, because it's a shock. It's very much like you see on TV, like a 1, 2, 3 clear. It's very much a shock. So I could hear the ambulance, people talking, and I can hear all of these things going on. I can hear my mom saying, Brittany, come back to us. I can hear Micah saying, Mommy, is Mommy okay? And, all of these things happening. So I did recover from that. But when I got to the hospital, when they transported me to the hospital by ambulance, they said, Brittany, you have to stay in the hospital and wait for a heart transplant. And I was like, I'm 28. What do you mean a heart transplant? And they said, well, your heart is failing to the point that you will need a transplant. So they put me on the transplant list. And my doctor, when he came in and said that to me, he said, you're going to need a heart transplant. I said, well, what do I do while I wait for a transplant? He said, do something amazing. And I wanted to punch him in the face, Marianne, because you don't say that to somebody that you just told is going to die. You say, like, write your will, but he's like, do something amazing.
He was smarter than us, Brittany. At the time, he was smarter than us.
That's what I say to him now. I when I tell this story, I often say he knew something that I didn't know. And the thing that he knew is that the mindset is what matters. If you are preparing yourself to die, that is exactly where everything that you see, do, and feel will be leading you. But if you are preparing yourself to do something amazing, you will absolutely find something amazing to do. So I waited in the hospital for 9 months for a heart transplant. I only saw Micah on Sundays. They would sneak him up the back stairs because I was in cardiac ICU. And like any person, I say like any mother, but any person that's away from their family for 9 months will go crazy in this isolated type situation. So I started to shift my focus to doing other things. I founded a nonprofit. And the other big thing I did was I got my master's degree while I was in ICU. And the reason for that was I figured if I have something to look forward to, it'll keep me from looking at my situation. I went through a program where you could like do the classes and then test out of them. So I got my master's degree in 9 months. And I told my doctor, I said, listen, I'm done with my master's degree. I still haven't gotten a heart. I've got to get home. Like, I'm missing my son's life. And I understand how important it is to get this transplant. But I also, if I'm not going to get it, I don't want to miss the time that I have. So they said, well, we can do this mechanical heart. And I said, okay, what does that look like? They said, well, we'll attach a machine to the left side of your heart that will pump your heart. You won't have a pulse anymore. You'll be clinically dead. A wire or a plug will come out of your stomach. You have to plug yourself into batteries or into the wall to keep yourself alive. But you can leave the hospital and you can go just don't like jump in the ocean or anything. But besides that, you'll be okay. So that's what I did. I got the mechanical heart. I went home and I was doing well enough to function on a minimal level for 2 years. And then I was back in the hospital. And finally, I gave up on January 12th, 2018. I said, I quit. I don't want to do this anymore. And my best friend said, give it one more day. Just give it one more day. So that day, I spent time. I wrote a little bit of a book, not a little bit. I wrote a book and submitted it to the author or to the publisher. And then I told the chef, I said, could you send me some steak and shrimp and a peach cobbler and some vanilla ice cream and a Coke? Because it's going to be my last meal. As far as I was concerned, I was not waking up the next morning. I'd written all the letters to Micah for his birthday and for graduation and for his wedding because I was so tired of fighting and tired of him having to have a mother that was tied up in the hospital so often she couldn't even enjoy his life. I thought, he's young enough where my husband could remarry. He will know me, but I won't be mommy, and that would be best for him. As I was chewing that last bite of steak, I looked up and I was like, God, if you're going to do something, that would be the time. And my phone rang and he said, Brittany, we have a heart for you. And I said, yeah, but it's probably got antibodies. You said of the 100 hearts you offer me, only like 3 of them will match even 50%. So how much does this one match? He says the antibodies match 100%. It's a heart that we can't even calculate the scientific probability. We couldn't even calculate the scientific probability of getting a match this closely. So we're going into surgery and I've held Micah for the last time. I've given my husband my wedding ring. I've told my mom, you have been the best mother that I could have ever asked for on this planet. But I am not thinking about the things that we stress over in everyday life. I'm not thinking about what kind of car I drive. I'm not thinking about how many bedrooms my house has or if I have a pool or not, or if I'm keeping up with the Joneses. The only question I was asking myself at that moment was, did I love them well? Was I authentic enough to love them with my entire self? And did I love me well? So I rolled into surgery at peace with that. Came out of surgery. Surgery went great. And then I went for my 1-year checkup and they said, the heart looks great, but you have stage 4 cancer. And I was like, okay, but come on, you're joking.
Yeah, right.
Right.
Like, when does it end, right?
So they said, listen, it's pretty aggressive. We don't know how the heart will take chemo, but we need to get started now. So I went through 6 rounds of chemo. I went through 45 rounds of radiation. None of that worked. So I had to took a last chance on a trial drug, and the trial drug worked. So the day that I got the call, that I remember walking into the room and saying to my mom, they said it worked. They said the cancer is gone. And this is not funny. This is not a joke, right? I walked in the room and I'm like, they said the cancer is gone. She's like, that's amazing. But have you heard of this COVID thing? I was like, nah, it's probably just whatever. Anyway, the cancer is gone. But that was literally the day they sent the kids home from school and they never went back because COVID.
It's just been one thing after the other.
Exactly. The biggest thing that I can take away from all of this is once you go through something, once life gets messy, there's a period where you have to recover yourself. You have to reevaluate what's happening in the world and what's happening mostly within yourself. So I tried to find specifically some type of a therapist or a psychologist that could help me process the parts of myself that I had lost throughout this journey. And I couldn't find someone that specialized in critical illness type loss. Because of course I'm the same person, but I'm also very, very different. My mindset is different. I've experienced things from dying that everybody doesn't get to experience. And I couldn't find a person to do that. So I thought, okay, well, I have this master's degree. I apparently have time because this COVID thing is going to take a while. So I said, well, let me start a doctorate. So I started my doctorate degree and finished my doctorate degree. And I am a psychosynthetic critical illness psychologist. So my job, not even my job, my purpose, my goal is to work with people that have either gone through or are going through a critical illness to help synthesize or bring back into place the tripart of who they are, the mind, the body, and the soul. And that is where I am finding my why these days.
I'm so in awe, as you know, of this whole story and just the fact that the way you talk about it, so just even keel and just, who can sit there and say, I died 5 times and, oh, I died in the car, I died on the floor. And crazy. I mean, it boggles my mind that you've been through all of this. And each time you got knocked down, you found a way to get back up, not only to get back up, but to get up stronger. You said, you're going to do something amazing. That doctor was so right? I mean, who goes and gets a master's while they're laying in the hospital? Like, was there no TV to watch or a book to read? I mean, who does that? And then to go get your doctorate because you see this gap in the ability to support the type of people that were going through the same kind of thing. Right. It's admirable, but it's also like crazy. Like, it's just, I mean, it kind of is. It's wonderful, but do you have any idea like what drove you? This just kind of came from inside and you just knew to go do these things? Or like, I don't even know what drives a person to have that perspective instead of the opposite perspective.
I cannot point to one specific thing. I am a woman of faith, and being a woman of faith, I believe that I do have a purpose. I do believe that my story will be used to help other people find their faith, whatever that may be. It may not be faith in the God that I have faith in, but as I think it's so important to have faith in something. And having that faith for me, I remember as I talked to Micah was very young, obviously. And also as I talked to my goddaughters through this process, I remember at the end of every conversation with them, no matter how bad it was, I remember telling them, no matter what happens, God is still good and he is still right and he is still just. So for me, it was a big part of it was showing them that there are so many things that we can go through on earth within this external world, but that should not shake the core of your being. And if it does, well, now there's a psychologist for that. So
And I imagine much needed. I'm still in awe that you had that within yourself and you knew, though I bet truthfully, there had to be times where you were like, why me? Why is this
oh my
happening to me?
goodness. If you were to get on the phone with my best friend, she would be like, oh my God, she cried all the time. Yeah, no. And it wasn't I can't say this is a self-propelled. I am not a self-made woman. This is a compilation of family members praying and best friends pushing and a lot of people doing a lot of things to keep me moving forward.
Yeah.
So, like, for instance, my family is a very faith-based family. So there were a lot of prayers and a lot of stuff like that. Well, my best friend is not a religious person. So she found other ways to keep me going and to push me forward. And sometimes it was listening, or sometimes it was challenging me to find the beauty in the pain. I needed all of that to be able to move forward the way that I have, because, I've learned working with people now, everybody is not going to be religious. So they're not going to relate to the God side of my story. And everybody is not going to be non-religious. So they're not going to relate to the parts of my story where I'm talking about meditation and things like that. So being able to I feel so blessed to have been surrounded by so many different people that were able to support me in so many different ways and still to this day support me in so many different ways. This is not a me thing. This is, if they ever give me a Nobel Prize, I'm going to cut it up in 25 pieces and just start handing out little bits of it. Cause it's not me. We'll say it this way. I'm the vehicle, but everybody else had to put gas in.
I love that. It takes a village, right? And I love your philosophy that we know that everybody's on their own journey,
right,
and that one tool, I'll use the word tool, is not going to fit everybody, or one size dress is not going to fit everybody, right? We need a whole toolbox or a whole closet so everybody can pick out what works for them. And I'm glad that you're helping share those tools. I want to touch on something. You alluded to it. Mindset, right? We know my group, we focus on that. You hit on it. But I want to know your experience with working with a lot of people that are sick and also people that have gotten well, thankfully. Mm-hmm. I'm curious what you've seen with people and how much that plays into their perspective, their recovery, or even, unfortunately, the end of their situation.
I've seen several different variants of things because some people have something that, well, I'm going to make a very generalized statement, but I think most people that have gone through any type of critical illness will agree. Once you've gone through a critical illness, not only does it give you a different type of strength, but it also gives you a different type of fear that most people don't carry. So as great and wonderful as I look right now, if you feel a tingle in your arm, you're going to be like, that's weird. I'm going to automatically go to, I am dying.
Wow. I wouldn't have thought of that.
When your heart rate speeds up, you automatically think, I must have a lot of coffee. When my heart rate speeds up, I automatically am thinking that my heart is in rejection. You feel something weird under your arm. If you get a bump under your underarm, you immediately think, dang it, when did I get bit? I immediately think, oh my God, my lymphoma is back. It's always there. And not just in that, like I've had to, all of your habits change. If I eat food that's too greasy because of the chemo, my body is very different. So if I eat foods that are too greasy or too high in saturated fat, or if I drink regular bottled water, if I do not have water that is at least 9 pH alkaline, then I immediately become nauseous and the rest of my day is shut down. I'm persona non grata, cannot function the rest of the day. If somebody accidentally gives me grapefruit or pomegranate, I have to get rushed to the emergency room. I love sushi and my best friend's Asian. Perfect combination, right? But because I am immunocompromised because of the heart, I asked her I always have to cook sushi. So she had a piece of sushi one day, and I just asked for a small sliver of her salmon, just the smallest, littlest piece. And she gave it to me. And about 4 hours later, I had 104 fever, and I was in the emergency room.
Wow.
So there's that part of it. There's the physical part. And then there's the mental part, right? Because it's always in the back of my mind. Before everybody was wearing masks for COVID, I was wearing a mask. I walked out of the hospital wearing a mask. So when Micah was like, why is everybody so upset about wearing masks? Because we had been doing it for 2 years. So it didn't matter to us. We had awesome masks already. So we're like, oh, they're just cheaper now. Great. But what I find most of the time is they are very purposeful. There's no more just waiting around, hanging around. Oh, I'm just bouncing through life. There's no more of that. They're very, very purposeful because they feel that they survived for a reason. They feel like they are here for a reason. And most of my work is to seek that reason, is to help them pinpoint the reason that they are here and how that is going to impact the world. It changes the view from me to us. And it gives you that zoom out view of, yes, I need a psychologist that can help me through this. But wait, doesn't everybody? Even Micah, on his 10th birthday, he was supposed to have this huge party because it was one of the first times that I was home and well, and we could have a birthday party for him. Well, he was born in 2010, so that was 2020. So I got online and I asked a few friends. I said, hey, listen, guys, I'm bummed I can't give Micah a birthday party, but he loved, just like all of us, loved getting Amazon boxes during COVID. So I said, it's his 10th birthday. If I can get 10 people to send him a gift, that would be amazing. He would have a fantastic birthday. So a few friends were like, yeah, absolutely, we'll do it. Like I threw some items on the Amazon wish list and I was like, okay, 10 gifts and we're good. When we opened the door, Marianne, he had 73 boxes.
Oh my God.
And there were books and toys and clothes and all kinds of things from these people, some of them that have never even met me, but they've been following the story and the bravery of this little guy, right? So he got all of these things and he said, I love this feeling. What is this feeling? I said, it's kindness and it's gratitude and it's love and it's acceptance. And he said, I want every kid to feel this way. I want all kids to feel like this. So on his 10th birthday, we founded a nonprofit called Micah Gives. And Micah Gives focuses on promoting the psychological well-being of all children so that they are able to find love, joy, acceptance, respect, and kindness within themselves and within their community, because he wants all kids to feel that way. So even though I went through this, he is impacting the world from his view of what he went through with me. And he was only 0 to 6 when I was going through it.
It's all he knew, though.
It's all he knew. So when he sees someone that has an amputation or that has gone through something, he doesn't go, what, blah, blah, blah. He walks up to me. He's like, hi, I'm Micah. What happened to your leg?
Yeah, because it's normal to him to have that many problems and those big problems.
Exactly. So it's definitely has impacted the world in a way that I never imagined. And so to answer your question, I think those of us that experience it are impacted. And I think our impact definitely changes our view. I think the biggest impact that we get is, what can I do to be more purposeful? I think that's our number one question from the mindset of the patient per se. But I think the patient's family becomes hypersensitive to other patients and other people that may be struggling.
Yeah, I could see that. It's a good thing that it happens. Oh, yeah. I mean, it's unfortunate that it happens, but it's a good thing because I could see that as a spread of kindness, right? Like you just embrace everybody and you know what they're going through and you have empathy for those people, like all those things, right? Because you went through it. Yeah.
Exactly.
So that's a good outcome of a bad situation. When that doctor said, do something amazing, you did, obviously you did, and you keep doing amazing things, but you also promote when you talk to people that it's not just the big things. And I think you talked about, like when you just said about his birthday party and kind of getting people to send a gift, it made me think of that because it wasn't this grand gesture. Some people sent a book. Maybe it's a $2 book. And sometimes those little things can really add up. And I think often when people are out there and they're trying to figure out like, who am I and what's my purpose and why am I here? it's hard to kind of get your head wrapped around this, even if you're very religious. I think it's hard to get your head wrapped around what your purpose is, why you are here. But I think your message, and I align with this, is there's a lot you can do that's on a smaller level, right? Your purpose doesn't have to be this ginormous, all-encompassing, get a Nobel Peace Prize. I mean, it can be smaller and still make a significant impact. Is that the message you have around that?
That is absolutely the message, because the message is the smaller and the quieter the gesture, the bigger the impact it makes. We throw a rock into the ocean and we see the ripples on the surface, but we have no clue what's happening in the depths of the ocean because we tossed that rock in there. My amazing started with my organ donor. He is why I am Dr. Brittany Clayborne. And his amazing started in a driver's license office when he was 16. He checked a box that said yes. That was his amazing.
I just got chills from that because I hadn't thought about that, but it's so much bigger, like you said, and everything's connected.
That's right. So his amazing was literally just checking one box, and checking that box has given me 4 more birthdays of my sons. It has given me doctorates and Amazon bestsellers, and we hosted an event for Micah Gives the other day. So it has given hope and mindfulness to 300 children for free. It has I've spoken to more than 1,000 people. His amazing, as small as he may think it was at the moment, is changing the world. This past week, I was appointed onto 2 board of directors for major health organizations in our country because of his amazing. It has nothing to do with me. I'm a ripple, Marianne. I'm not the rock. I'm the ripple. And I love that I'm a ripple of his.
I love that message because the legacy is so much more than what you're giving. It's what your son's giving. It's what, like you said, the surrounding family and friends, and now what they give. But it started from that checkbox. I mean, who would have thought that, right?
One check. That's what I think organ donation, one of their big slogans is one yes.
One yes.
One check. One little moment changes so much.
And I guess that ties into, a lot of the topics we talk about in mindfulness, because the intention that person had in that moment. Mm-hmm. And though I know when we check that box, some of us give it thought, some of us don't give it all that much thought. We just say, yeah, we want to do this, but we don't really think about what that means and will look like to somebody else, right? I'm sure that if you could play that back and as he's sitting there making that decision, that 16-year-old boy, and somebody said, well, if you check this box someday, this is what will happen and you'll get this big impact. Of course he would check the box, but we don't know that. And so the mindfulness to be intentional about everything we do, even the little things, to your point, can have such a ripple.
That's right. I would love to one day stand at a DMV and say, if you check that box, you'll save a life. And show them that scar that matters. And people say, why do you'll go speak or you'll donate your time to stuff and you could be making thousands of dollars speaking. I'm like, because that's not my purpose. Sure, I could write a book and tell a story and that would be it. But that's not what it's about. It's about, I've learned, somebody said, what is the amazing thing? Somebody asked me that. So he said, do something amazing. What is the amazing thing? You've done all these amazing things. So what do you consider the amazing thing? And I said, I've realized that the amazing thing, crazy enough, he did it first. The amazing thing is hope. The amazing thing is hope. And he gave me hope in that moment. He didn't say, call your family, things aren't looking well. He challenged me to do something amazing. And I'm the ripple of so many rocks.
Yeah.
I'm a ripple of that rock. I'm a ripple of my organ donor's rock, because if he wouldn't have said do something amazing, if any other doctor in that hospital would have walked in that room that day and said, well, I'm really sorry, blah, 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 I would not be having this conversation with you today. I may not even be here. That's what I try to do. I try to bring hope to people. And I've learned that whether it comes to organ donation or whether it comes to just life in general, the most amazing thing that we could give each other is hope. If I have hope and you have hope, that's amazing. But when we make the connection, when we share it, that's when the sparks fly.
Yeah.
And it's having conversations like this. It's having forums, whether it's podcasts or videos or just a conversation in a bookstore, that makes the amazing happen. So if you don't have anything else you can do, when he said do something amazing, it meant knock on your neighbor's door. Super simple. Because I can't tell you how many people are in the back of their minds thinking, I'm so alone, nobody cares. And for just somebody to just walk across the street and say, hey, I just hadn't seen you outside and I wanted to say hi, make sure you're good. I'm going to run to Starbucks. Do you want something? That's amazing, because it's connecting a hope that can only come from humanity. There was nothing that could save my life except one human saying, yes, I am going to choose to save the life of another human. I am going to choose to gift hope, even if I have none. So that's the amazing. And that's why I get the privilege of being a ripple in this amazing story that I get to live.
It really is an amazing story. And I think you just hit on, I was going to ask you about your kind of slogan about starting from here, and you've threaded it through the whole thing. So you live and breathe it. But I think your message is amazing doesn't have to be, back to the same thing about your purpose. It doesn't have to be this big, profound thing that some of us think about.
Right.
Amazing can be just this tiny little thing. And starting from where you're at is about just be intentional and pick that next thing to do and impact somebody else's life or your own.
Absolutely.
And give hope and lift somebody up and know that whatever you're going through will pass in one way or another. It will pass. I think that's the message in that.
That's absolutely right. Giving to others is so important. And being able to, I often think the tree doesn't grow fruit to feed itself. The tree grows fruit so that others may have, so that it may spread its seed, so that it may spread its goodness and its love. The sun doesn't shine to give itself light. So the things that we do, yes, we're human. So we do them for us. We do them because they are fulfilling. But I truly think the most fulfillment is found by sharing yourself, by sharing your moments. I can't tell you how many people will say, I love your empowerment, but I'm really glad you shared the hard days. The hard days are what got me through my hard days. Because we look at so many people, we look at the Elon Musk of the world, right? And go, man, if I could be you.
Life's easy.
But we don't know what it took to make Elon Musk Elon Musk.
Yeah.
If we had the hard days where he was sleeping in his car, we'd be like, oh, I can do that.
Yeah.
So we just have the $7 billion guy.
Yeah. I mean, I often say, right, our mess becomes our message. I think the other thing that I've learned, and we've talked about before on the show, is you never know what people are going through. I mean, it's so deceiving on the outside. Forget about even just like social media. That even takes it up a level. But even meeting somebody in person, you could work with somebody every single day and they go home or they walk away from that situation and they take that mask off, right? We all tend to wear different masks in different parts of our lives, but you have no idea what they're going through. You just don't. So I think it's important to be kind to people and to be aware that anything could be going on.
That's right. That's absolutely right. And, with Micah and his nonprofit, we use what we call the high five. We say everybody deserves a high five. And the 5 things on the fingers is love, acceptance, kindness, empathy, and respect. So everybody deserves a high five. If you can walk in and you can give everybody a high five, you're giving them that love, acceptance, kindness, empathy, and respect. Because if the world shared that freely, what a beautiful place we would live in.
Yes. And we need that, right? More than ever.
More than ever. So if we can instill it in our youth, in our future, then hopefully they will carry it. They will do something amazing with that and carry it forward and make it who we are as people.
I love that. I love your story. And I'm super thankful that you came and talked to us today.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, you're welcome. So we will put all your ways to connect and all your links and all that stuff in the show notes. But is there one way in particular that people can kind of follow you the most? Where are you most active? I like to ask that.
Yeah, that's a great question. I'm most active across all the social media platforms. So TikTok, Facebook, Instagram. Instagram, I'm probably the most active. The handle to all of them is at DrBrittanySpeaks. And that's just at Dr. Brittany Speaks. So I'm active on all of those. You could message me or reach me on any of those if you have questions or anything like that.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much. This has been really great. I'm sure people will reach out. You're going to continue to do fantastic work. And before we leave, you're all good now health-wise, right? Everything's as good as it can be?
Everything as good as it can be. I actually just returned yesterday from Canada with my son. I took him to Niagara Falls.
Oh, awesome.
So it was just a trip that he deserved for being such a trooper.
He really is a trooper. He's been through a lot for a little boy. He's going to be amazing, is my guess. That's another ripple, but we'll have to wait and see how that plays out.
That's right.
All right. Well, thank you so much. Thank you for listening to this episode of Message in the Middle with Marianne. If you enjoyed the podcast, please take a minute to share it and write a review, as it helps bring new listeners to our audience. If you'd like to keep the conversation going between episodes, please join us at Facebook group Message in the Middle with Marianne.